great halls of their house, there are assembled three who hope to one day be the world's greatest driving heroes. Created from the cosmic legends of the universe comes our team captain, the Vision Bill Fisher. There's soon to be Wonder Woman, Vicky Fisher. Our Captain Marvel and head flight trainee, Jennifer Skripchuk. And our Batman, the master of tools, gadgets, and all things mechanical. Our mild-mannered soon-to-be billionaire, Alan Danvers. Their mission, to fight injustice, share what is right and wrong, to get you out of your house and come out racing with them, and serve all mankind. They are the Garage Heroes in Training Team.
Welcome to the Garage Heroes in Training Podcast. I'm going to be your host for this episode, and my name is Bill. Who do we have?
I'm Jennifer.
And I'm Vicky.
And we don't have Alan. We don't know where he is. He's probably out chasing some shiny piece of tinfoil or something in his backyard. So we've got two guests on for this episode, and I do believe they are going to be setting a record for the farthest away we've ever had. So with us, we have Nathan Howe and Mike Howe of the Hooncorp team.
Hey, how's it going?
Hi, guys.
So as everybody can tell, they are not from Massachusetts. They are not from California. Where are you guys from?
So we hail from the deepest of the deep south, New Zealand.
Yeah.
That's way far south. That's like past Alabama.
You're not wrong there.
We get plenty of Alabama people here, though. Don't worry about that. We love Alabama people.
Very well, very well. So just in case, and I'm pretty sure we do have listeners from New Zealand and we do have listeners from Australia. We have data to prove this. But just in case everybody's not totally familiar with you and your team, could you guys give a brief introduction and just in case somebody's not familiar?
Sure. My name's Mike Howe, and back in 1989, back when we didn't have cell phones and digital currency, we founded a group called Hooncorp. And Hooncorp was my brother actually doing some illegal drag racing. We decided to get him into doing some legal stuff and cross-entered him down at Mary Drag Strip and got him doing the dialed your own in a little old car. And we thought that went pretty well, and he had a good time, and so did my brother-in-law. And then we went and did a few other little bits and pieces. And Hooncorp's been around for 31 years, and now my son Nathan's got into it as well.
That's awesome.
So
what kind of car?
Everybody's got so many questions because this is awesome. Okay, I'll back off. Go ahead, guys.
The bulldozer backs off. Go ahead, Jen.
I thought that was a good question.
For 31 years? Is that what you said?
Yeah, 31 years, 1989. And we just started off doing small things. We did gymkhanas and autocrosses. We're part of a church group as well, just getting them out, having a bit of fun and skidding around and throwing up some dust. And then we started getting a bit more serious and hiring circuits. We hired the Pukekohe circuit, which is 2.9 kilometers, and we had people going out there just for fun. And it all just evolved from there to doing lemons a few years ago. And we'll talk about that with you guys a little bit more, because obviously lemons is where we're joined at the hip.
Yeah.
That's amazing.
That is amazing.
So what kind of cars you guys race out there?
So the first car that we sort of entered into lemons, it was pretty hastily. So the first lemons that we didn't actually really have a car in mind, but we found this old Holden Commodore which we had sitting in the back of our shed, and it was an ex-rally car. So the guy that we'd bought it off had built it for the Waiuku Forest Rally. Waiuku's sort of like your Alabama and your Florida mixed into one.
Well, you can marry your sister legally in New Zealand.
Yeah.
Oh.
And so we had this.
Is that or sheep, right?
Sometimes it's the same thing.
So we had, so we had this old Holden Commodore, and it had done a couple of rallies, and the guy had had enough of it, and it was all caged and ready to go. So we decided to enter it, and it was the roughest, filthiest looking thing you ever saw.
That's it?
Yep.
It's a bit blurry, but that's it.
Yeah, you got a blur on, hun.
Mm.
Oh.
Yeah. Oh no,
I'm not the one who's not drinking. So
that's the modern Commodore. So the one that we got's it's a VN Commodore. So if you could look up a VN GTS Commodore, that's what that is. basically it's got a big Buick V6 in it. It's big, it's rear-wheel drive, it's just such a reliable car.
So that was our first car.
Yeah, that was our
Otherwise
first car.
we'll go on memories and we'll talk for hours about that one car.
That was car number one, and that's the one that's seen us through every single Lemons to date. That's more like it.
That is exactly it.
Yep. In the Imperial Blue, which got spray painted red.
It's now red. Off for a wee break. Yep, go and have some beer. Sorry, get rid of some beer.
So following the Commodore, we built up the first one that we actually built from scratch was a Nissan Pulsar.
Nissan. They say
Nissan.
Nissan.
Yes, they say Nissan.
Nissan, yeah.
Nissan Pulsar, and it was a 98 model N15. Autic, yeah. Probably shouldn't say that too loud in case the judge Nick Brown hears us. But
no, it was just a crappy old Pulsar.
That's right. But so we built that one up from scratch. We chucked the cage in it. We did the seat harness, built it all up, and we actually got one of my mates from Oklahoma actually came over and did that race with us. That's
in America.
Yeah. So and we built that one up. What was the next one? Oh, the Lucino.
Yeah, the Lucino. So we got we bought a dirt track car off the side of the road for $600. It had a cage in it. Looked like a pretty reasonable sort of body shell. Turned out to be a factory 2-litre, 5-speed LSD, all that, and that's limited slip diff, not drugs. And it was quite a good factory little car. So we thought, well, it's got nothing in it. Let's put some glass in it, which we did, and headlights and tail lights and brake lights, and then we got the cage done to a better standard. It's like watching someone trying to spin a web with that cords going on there. And and we got that all going. So that was our third car, our Nissan Lucino. And we thought, well, that went pretty well and got some potential. So then we thought, well, 24-hour Lemons and 2020 is a big one. We've got people coming from all overseas. We probably should build another car. So
we basically built another Pulsar because we liked the first one so much.
Yeah, but this one's going to have a lot of horsepower. So those people in New Zealand listening, don't tell anyone, but it's really going to be a rocket ship. So we're going to try and make it look as crappy as we can. We have a place over here called Pick Apart. I think you have the same thing. You can buy parts off the yard. You go and take them out yourself. You pick or something like that. Yeah. Well, we went over there to get some parts for our other Pulsar and saw this thing, and it had been stripped out and whatnot. And we paid like $500 for what was left, which was actually still a really good shell, good body, good panels, good bones. And so it's still got they put a little number on the car, 546. And so we're leaving 546 on it, to identify the car. Anyway, we're going off topic for that one, sorry guys, but
that's fine.
It's the 4 cars at the moment anyway.
Wow.
So do you have other leagues? Oh, sorry.
Go ahead.
Do you we have like 24 Hours of Lemons, we have Lucky Dog, there's other different leagues. Do you guys have others over there in Australia?
New Zealand.
Australia's
New Zealand, sorry.
New Zealand.
Australia to us is like Canada to you. So you have literally insulted us.
Sorry.
I'm now going to the fridge to find beer. No, we
it's after 5 here, so feel free.
we have a class called the 2K Cup, and that's 2K as in $2,000. So it's sort of like that, but a little bit more cheaty and a lot faster, and the cars are more professional. So not professional, but better looking. The drivers are still ugly, but and they're allowed to put better tyres on and things like that. So we have 2K Cup. We love over your pond. You've got Chump Car, which I think is a fantastic class as well. And I think that there's a lot of synergies between Lemons and Chump Car, so you can sort of cross. If you don't have a Lemons event on there, they might have a Chump Car, and you can sort of do stuff like that. But as far as New Zealand, no, pretty much the 2K Cup would be the next level up. They just do like 30-minute races. They don't do long endurances. So it's it's just Lemons that do the long races here in New Zealand. Peace, brother.
So that's Bill's signal for me.
Oh right, okay.
So when did Lemons show up in New Zealand? Do you know?
So the first Lemons in New Zealand was 2017. 16. No, sorry.
Okay.
The first one was 2016, and it was pretty modest as far as attendance. Obviously, they had a few big names there, like they had a few professional drifters there and a few sort of notable characters to sort of appeal, get a bit of attraction going. But and it was 24 hours over the 3-day weekend, so your Friday, Saturday, Sunday. and then it just snowballed from there. So
Did you just cough? You go to your room for 14 days. I'll carry on.
That's right. Shove in
as
that
far
room.
as far as the like there are people that race today that have been here since day one. I mean, obviously Lemons is still a relatively fresh venture compared to the rest of the world. Aussie have it and the US have it, but so 2016, and then like I said, they pretty much do 2 or 3 events a year, and
Now down there, how many cars on a racetrack for Lemons do you normally get?
as many as there are pit garages.
Okay, like we had 140 up here at one point
Wow.
Oh, okay,
on a racetrack. So I wasn't sure how many, roughly you guys would get.
Well, we just run the 12-hour down at Taupo, and that's a lot smaller than the big non-stopper. And that was 4 hours on the Saturday, 8 hours on the Sunday. And they started 38 cars. And last year's 24-hour Lemons non-stop in May, they started 59 cars. So that's good for us. I think this year,
wow.
before the virus, now I don't know if that's going to affect it, if it's going to happen, but we were looking 70 to 80 cars. So, but yeah.
Wow.
Yeah, up in the
And
air.
you guys are wrapping up your season too, aren't you?
Well, our season goes right through the year. So we go February, May, September. So February's our 12-hour, May's our non-stop 24, and September's 2, 10, 11-hour days.
Right. But you guys are approaching your autumn, right?
Yes.
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah.
That's what I thought. Yeah, because go ahead.
Yeah.
So with you on your team, do you each have like a certain responsibility, or do you just kind of all do everything together, or do you have one person? Like we have Alan that works on our mechanic, and the girls just kind of do fluff stuff.
Well,
Can I answer that question with a question? If you're talking
Sure.
about a non-stop race, or you guys, do you do many non-stop 24s, or yours stop and start like that, most of ours?
no, actually over here they don't have that many racetracks that will do that because the racetracks are close to housing areas, so they don't want the 2 o'clock in the morning revving the engines. So they actually have maybe they have a handful right now that will do it.
Yeah.
We haven't done one yet.
No, we haven't done one yet.
So
It
getting
just
back
seems
to
like
your,
that would be work,
yeah, that's right. Getting back to your question about whose responsibilities, we do have we have our senior car controller, we have a team manager, if you want to call it that loosely, and then we have mechanics who sort of not cross-dress, they do cross different jobs as far as mechanicing, and then they'll do refueling because they're in safety gear already. And then after that, it's all the drivers who sort of prance around like prima donnas and look at me, and I'm magnificent.
Yeah, in their uniforms.
That's right, yeah, in their matching outfits and their matching helmets. And with the 24 non-stop, we have a roster of who's what and where, and who's to, like each driver you're required at da-da-da-da-da, but there'll be time to go and have a sleep, and there'll be time to be prepared because you're in your jammies as well, ready to go. We'll get you to go and do fueling and, all of that sort of stuff. So, but the one thing about our 24-hour non-stop, which is really quite good, if you have a look at the place called Hampton Downs, which is where this race is, Hampton Downs is right beside a prison. So we don't really care if we can make a lot of noise for 3 o'clock in the morning, 4 or 5 in the morning, because they're only prisoners. They're not real people. So keep them up, disrupt them as much as we possibly can. Let's get some justice for once.
So I know we briefly discussed your racing history. So we do know that you started out illegally drag racing, and then you kind of brought him into the fold. And so you started out there. What other racing have you done besides Lemons and the illegal drag racing?
That's good, isn't it? The legal drag racing.
There you go.
Yeah. So that I've personally done, because I'm about 112 years old. I've done a lot of production racing. Back when we were younger, we had Datsun. You call them Datsuns. We call them Datsuns. I had a Datsun 1200 four-door sedan, Triple S. That did the production racing for quite a few years, and then something happened to my wife, and his belly swelled up, and that sort of made us have to not stop racing for a while. We went muscle car racing, and I ran a Chrysler Charger, which you have Chrysler over there. I'm just trying to think what would be similar to that. Nothing really. It's an Australian car. We ran that in the muscle car series for a couple of years and won the 6-cylinder class. And then pretty much stepped out of racing. We went into endurance racing in the early 2000s. Did some what we call the North Island Endurance Series over here. And then Nathan sort of started to come into racing as well. He's done, well, he'll tell you what he's done. And then once we got into the Lemons, it's like a duck going to water. We just absolutely, I love the whole challenge of getting that car to the checkered flag. My attitude to the guys is I don't want to know, and you're not going to know and don't care who's the fastest lap, because when we turn up there for the practice, I would say to them, all you think about is Sunday afternoon's checkered flag. Don't even think about going fast. Don't wring the neck out of the car. Just putt around like a little old lady, and here's a lap time, you know, and be prepared to speed up and be prepared to slow down. And in brackets, we never tell them to speed up. But, you know, just do a
Let
lap.
the other cars blow up.
That's right.
Just drive around them.
There's no point being the fastest car in the pits. You know, that's the whole thing. The
Right.
more you're on the track, the better you are, and as more laps as you complete, because as much as we say it's a race, it's not actually a race. Lemons is an endurance. It's all
Right.
about seeing that checkered flag, you know, and that's what you try to drum into these drivers. So when you get the guy, oh, he's a really good race car driver. To be honest with you, a rookie is a really good race driver if they do as they're told, you know, and if they do a 1:30 or 2-minute lap. But if they do a 1:55, how much wear and tear have they just done to that car that may not make it last 24 hours?
Right.
You're right. I think a lot of people forget that.
Oh, that's what it's all about.
Yeah.
Just on our
Especially,
team.
yeah.
So,
Just before we lose what your question was, I'll just let Nathan, if you want, he wants to answer what racing he's done, because he's the young star, the champion, the future of New Zealand motor racing.
So, okay, before we go in there, is Nathan your son, your in-law? I mean, what is your relationship together?
Oh, well, he's my brother-in-law's cousin's neighbour. Oh, he's lovely.
No, he's my son.
Okay.
Yeah.
I think
So
he's trying to figure out exactly who that was. She's like,
Yeah.
Oh, there's a lot of voices. We've also got an Alabama guy here. He loves to talk about things as well. You may know him as Cletus.
We know
you did
Cletus.
that very well.
Yeah.
Oh, he
He
does.
passed
He
us
does
the
so
last
many
race.
voices.
Oh,
So
don't even
many
start.
voices.
Don't even start.
Yeah. So as far as my racing experience, I started out pretty humbly enough on the dirt track. So had another Pulsar, funnily enough. Ran that at the dirt track for a season. What did I do after that? After that, I went for a scholarship with the
drives, yeah.
with the Toyota 86 series, which is like tier 1, you know, slick tires and professionally built Toyota 86s, which was it was all right, but it was just a bit daunting because obviously dirt track to slick racing,
In front-wheel drive to rear-wheel drive.
yeah. There was a lot of I guess culture shock. It was very, very different.
Then he's done a bit of sprint racing after that.
Yeah, a little bit of sprint racing. Obviously, we started to get involved with Lemons, so that was a big part of sort of gaining experience. I did the BMW race driver scholarship, which is the old E30 shaped BMWs.
He got
nice.
told he was too fast.
Yeah, that was
He
weird.
was too fast. Oh, that was funny.
That was weird. But yeah, and then I sort of moved into, well, I've sort of also been doing the sim racing and the sort of esports, but that's a whole nother conversation. So
Nothing to do with Lemons,
yeah. And obviously the Lemons has been a bit of our baby as far as all our effort and all of our skill. So yeah, no, it's good.
Nice.
So, what are the tracks like in your area?
Pukekohe, we don't race at Pukekohe, which I really wish we did with Lemons, because it's a beautiful track. It's spelled Pukekohe, Pukekohe or Pukekohe. And it's amazing. It's the fastest racetrack in the Southern Hemisphere. It's only in fact, it's even faster than the amazing track in Australia called Bathurst. But the track we use at Hampton Downs is massive. Like it's got elevation, it's got ups, it's got downs. It's very, very fast, long straight coming up a hill, which even in our junky old Holden Commodore GTS, it's an honest to goodness 185 kilometers an hour. And the faster guys just passing us at 200 plus, but it's a beautiful track. And it's only 6 corners for 2.9 kilometers, but it's a very much, you've got to think and know, where you're at. And in Taupo, like Nathan said, the Taupo track is very twisty. not much time to relax. It's a pretty hard on tyres, not too bad on brakes, but yeah, it's sort of it's a track.
There is a drag strip of a back straight though. It's about a K long.
Yeah.
Wow.
Wow.
So
We need to go try some of those.
I know. Now, how many
Okay,
tracks
Bill.
are there? How many tracks you guys race over during the season over there?
So as far as tracks, we've only got 2. We only do the Hampton Downs and the Taupo. They are obviously they always want to try and because New Zealand is just blessed with so many tracks. The North Island and the South Island. There's a variety of world-class tracks, but it's just a case of which tracks will have us, because obviously Lemons is not seen as too glamorous these days, so it's sort of a bit, yeah.
They just don't know.
Yeah, that's right. I mean, they're seen as a bunch of hillbillies there, driving cars that'll fall apart. But what they don't see, yes, on the outside they look like rubbish, which is great. But what they don't see is how well prepared some of the cars are. Like even your cars, if your suspension's not right, you've got to put good suspension. If your brakes aren't right, you put good brakes. And we're always starting on brand new tires or near new tires and things like that, which is a lot safer than even on the road. So the cars are quite amazing. That we've probably seen 60 to 70% of the cars finish event that start. The contact is minimal. We do get bumps and scrapes. We wore a pretty big shunt at the 24 last year, and the other car got a few scrapes and dings in it. But as far as 60 odd people running around the racetrack at warp factor 9 altogether, it's actually quite minimal, and so I think Lemons has been seen as a more viable proposition, and there's a lot of people on the track, and everybody's been, you're giving them an introduction. It's like the feeder class, for New Zealand motorsport, and I'm sure America's seen the same thing.
For sure.
Now, do you guys over there have an equivalent to like a NASA or SCCA? It is like a driver training or coaching, and do you partake in those?
Yeah, we have advanced driving training over here, but we have not really racing side of things. It's more the road side. There's a couple of individuals there that do it, but you don't do a heck of a lot of mileage for your money, and it's a lot of money.
Yeah.
So here, theming is pretty important in Lemons. They kind of go all out with that. Is it a big thing there, or?
Oh, yes, but obviously you Americans do it bigger and better.
Oh, you do it amazing.
So I mean, some of the longest standing Lemons teams, even longer than us. I mean, we joined Lemons on the 3rd ever event that they did in New Zealand. So there are teams that have done the first and the second and been there even longer. We've got who do we have? We got Super Mario, the not so Super Mario brothers.
Not so Super Mario.
So they've got a Toyota Celica that's all red and got the Mario font, and they all dress with their mustaches and their hats, and there's a couple of Luigis, and yeah, that's pretty cool.
Top Gun.
Yeah, Top Gun. So of course, what is it? A Honda Prelude, and it's all done up like an aircraft fighter. It's got all the rivets and all the metal and missiles and all that sort of that. So they're pretty cool.
That usually blows up, so that's quite fun to watch. What we admire about the American Lemons, you guys have got SpeedyCop. Now that guy is that team is awesome, and I'll tell you what, that when I really opened my eyes when he built that Camaro that had upside down Camaro, the body cell they put upside down on the car, and then because we're fairly well involved with the organisation of 24 Hour Lemons in New Zealand, they had a association with Jeff and the team, and they put it together where he would actually build a car, and I think there's a whole blog on them building this car they called the Muttstang, and it's basically a dog of a car.
And that's fun.
they bought this steel-bodied 71 Mustang or Mach 1 Mustang, but it was a dirt track car, and they had no title, so they bought a Lincoln Continental Mark 8, I think it is. So it's a early 2000s ex-cop car or whatever. And they chopped the body off the Muttstang, put it onto the Lincoln, which had a chassis and had a title and all that sort of carry on, and then brought it over to New Zealand. And so we literally have that car. We are the custodians of that car, looking after it for the 24 Hour of Lemons and their other little car as well. So that's in our shed here in New Zealand as well. So, but you know, seeing the creativity that guy puts in, the amount of effort the whole team put in, and it's I mean, you guys know what it's like to put a team together and put a car on the track, but you're taking a car like we are and just putting a cage in it and doing the best you can. He's actually making a Volkswagen Combi lie down on its side, or he's making a boat into a blooming. It's incredible, and I just take my hat off to the engineering ability of guys like and teams like them.
And he's a cop.
And he's a policeman, yes, SpeedyCop, a real American policeman.
He does admit he is slightly OCD. he does admit that.
And his wife is such a lovely lady. I honestly can't remember her name, but she's just so lovely, and they're just such a cool couple. You know, they put everything on the line. They don't do it for pride. They don't do it professionally. I know we should be talking about New Zealand. I apologise, but it's just that he is such an outstanding person, and you know, if you can base yourselves and even get to know Jeff, and he welcomed you guys with open arms as well, because they are just so nice people. I couldn't believe, for Americans, you expect them to be loud and yelling and look at me, and I thought he'd have a couple of guns on him and stuff like that. But no, it was a real pleasure to meet him, and you know, and if you guys ever get a chance to be at a race meet with SpeedyCops here, I know you can mention the guys in New Zealand at Hooncorp and also the New Zealand experience. Gosh, I'm sure they've got plenty of stories to tell you.
Yeah,
actually, he's in our circuit.
About you guys.
Yeah.
He talked about you guys when he was on our podcast a little bit ago. So.
True.
Yeah, and he actually, we were at the particular race when he showed up with the fishbowl. Which was, and literally everybody stopped in their tracks because he had like all the fish that followed him from the fish tank. All his team was dressed up in variations of what would go into a fish tank, which was hysterical. Everybody just froze as they saw him come by.
I remember seeing that. That was hilarious.
And I wish I had the creativity and the engineering expertise to do half of what they can do, because no disrespect, it just doesn't interest me from my side. I'm the guy that likes to take the car and make it go and get across the line. But you know, to go off on this whole tangent of making it look like a rocket or make it look like a tree or something like that, it's just incredible, you know. And
he's definitely, it's art for him. It really is. It's art for him.
And there was one that they made out of a helicopter or something. I think it caught fire on the way back from a trip or something, wasn't it? Or...
Yeah, the helicopter burned down. They still have the plane though.
That was a shame. Yeah, he does have the plane. That's right.
Nathan's brought up your guys' identity there on the computer on our screen, and I'm looking at a Honda dirt track car.
That's sad. Yes.
Yeah.
That was our first failed attempt. We've had many failed attempts.
Yeah.
Here we go. It says in brackets, do not mention the dirt track car. Sorry, that was my bad.
It never made it.
Jennifer and I work on the theming on our car. So usually, so Jennifer and I are pretty fluent in art. So now it's just applying that to the vehicles, which is pretty fun. So we actually have two plans for we're doing a theming changeover this year, which we're all pretty excited about right now. We had our meetings. But it's always good to have that one person on your team that has that sense of creativity. Just like, this is what we're going to do, guys.
Yeah.
We tried to do a theme one time, and we're terrible. I'm terrible at themes, and we tried to do this theme of a theme of the Russians. Well, our car is called a Holden Commodore, and so being a Commodore, everyone abbreviated it to a commie. And being communist, and commie, we thought that was funny. So we all dressed up as Russians, and we had these little glasses, shot glasses, which was water. And everyone said, what's the Russian word for, to drink the thing? And someone said, Google it. And I thought that must be the word. So every time we had a round of drinks, we Google it and then drink the water. You see.
Nice. So speaking of all that, what is the craziest things you guys experienced since joining Lemons?
Ooh.
It could be something you've seen, something that happened to you.
SpeedyCop, when he did the race.
Yes.
So he had, I don't know his crew as such, but he had Randy Pobst with him as well. And
Randy.
Wow.
I don't think it was Randy who was driving, but
we'll say that it was.
We'll say that it was. No, but so at some point during their stint, they had a bit of a bit of a bump, and it sort of pried the bonnet up just a little bit, right? Bit of witness marks there on the bonnet, and so it was all well and good, and no harm. I don't think anyone went spearing off or burst into flames or anything, so that was all good. But then when he's coming up, he was coming up over the straight, and Hampton Downs, the front straight is, you can't really call it a straight because it's sort of a gradual curve, like you're full throttle, but it's just this big gradual curve. And as he was coming up over where the pit garage is, and he's sort of flying past, he's doing about 115 mile an hour because it's a Mustang, and I imagine a bit of wind must have caught under it because it sheared all 4 bonnet pins, all 2 hinges, and just went flying off.
Oh wow, spectacular!
Bill knows that.
Yeah,
I don't remember exactly what you're talking about.
Oh, you didn't put the bonnet pins in, Bill.
Yeah. Well, yeah.
Needless to say, he got penalised.
Yeah, I think my memory of the most exciting part of Lemons really is the penalties. Seeing the judge at his job, picking on people, doing all sorts of nasty things. We had one guy that what did he do? Something silly, and they made him do a Ricky Bobby, and he took off his overalls, he was down to his jockstrap and jandals, and he was running down the pit saying, I'm on fire. It was just so funny, So silly things like that, growing, and those people that turn up in a really nice car, that they haven't got a sense of humor, and then making them, not asking them, making them put on a pink tutu and dance around like a ballerina or something, and that, it's just so cool. I love that.
Well, it's sad that anybody would show up with a really nice car of lemons anyway.
Well, they turned up with a Mercedes, a real nice Mercedes. So, yeah.
There was actually there was a team in a Jaguar, and full credit to them. They were good buggers. They were real nice, and they had it themed like Austin Powers, so it was the Shaguar.
Nice.
Union Jack and everything.
Beautiful paint job. Beautifully
presented car, which is totally unacceptable for Lemons. But anyway, we'll overlook that because it lasted 4 laps and the gearbox blew.
Yeah.
Oh, jeez.
And full credit to them, they stuck around. They didn't just pack up and go home and cry. They stuck around. They had a few beers. I think they helped out a couple of teams. So
caused mischief.
But it was this beautifully presented like 2002 Jaguar, 4 laps in a 24-hour race.
That sucks.
Top 10, maybe.
They didn't have any spare parts.
And they were all dressed up. Yeah, baby. And they had the big teeth and the whole 9 yards. And
nice.
That was great. It was awesome.
So you thought those were costumes, but no.
Well,
the halitosis you so obviously suffers from.
Very nice, very nice. So you guys have a lot more experience than most of the people we talk to, but do you guys have any goals coming up or bucket list items you guys are looking to cross off? Or
I think we need to see that this young fella's done his apprenticeship, and we actually do want to get him into some serious form of racing. We want to stay involved with Lemons.
Nice.
We've never asked for any money in our life, and we're not going to start right this minute. But we want to put Nathan into an actual class in New Zealand motorsport, and just see if he's got what it takes in the sprint format as well as the endurance. And I'm not saying that as a dad and my son, I'm a realistic person. If he makes a mess, I go, why'd you do that? You knew you should have done da-da-da-da-da. And he makes mistakes like every human. But
sure.
From Hooncorp's point of view, we do a lot of do it on the track, don't do it on the road. So between the road safety message and getting this young fellow out on the track in 2021 it's our realistic goals. And if we can move that and get a season done, and he gets a good run, and then potentially move him up a grade or two and see where his Formula One is and all of that sort of stuff. I don't expect he'll do Formula One, but I'd like to think that he might be might be good enough to be in GT3s or what they run in Australia, the V8 supercars in one of the feeder classes or something like that. But from the Hooncorp point of view, we really want to bring up the road safety message this year, and just say to people that the road is to get to A to B and the track is to go and prove yourself. Because I don't know if you get it over in America, but in New Zealand we get if you die on the road, you get a white cross, and everyone's supposed to be all reverent about it and blah blah blah. To me, it's just disgusting that no one should die on the road. If they die on the track, at least they've got off the couch, they've had a go, right. Something's gone wrong. So what, But it's better than crossing the centre line at 200 kilometres an hour because you've been an absolute muppet and hitting an innocent person the other way and killing them and or yourself. And to me, there's no hero. But every time you do a lap time, you've got something to prove. You know, I did a 1 minute 46 at such and such, and the other friend does a 1 minute 45. Well, that's great. You can do a 1 minute 45, and just things like that. So I think road safety is important, and it's not road safety like, oh, the nice warm fuzzies. We actually do put events together. We do, you know, little things to get people involved, and then try and nurture them along to doing things, including using lemons.
Yeah, I think the one thing that we've heard, and we have not got to experience it yet, but we're trying to figure out a bad reason to figure it out. But you guys also have some of the best roads to drive in that we're aware of. So we just have to figure out how.
Yeah. Well, there's a reason that the rally fellas love coming here.
Oh gosh, yeah.
Yeah, there's something for everything, something for everyone. There's, you know, straight open roads. There's tight, twisty gorges and canyons and every sort of driving condition you could possibly want. So yeah.
There's one gorge going to a place called Gisborne, and it's 70 kilometres long, and it's just, honestly, you come out of that and you've got to pull over and almost have a cup of tea, because it's 70 kilometres of just twisting and turning and up and down, and if you and you can do that, you wouldn't even get up to 100 k's in a lot of it because it's so tight and twisty. So you literally feel like you're racing, although you're just driving on the road. So you've got plenty of reasons and ways to have a lot of fun on the road safely and sensibly within the limits, and then take it to the next level and come to the track. And the track can be circuit, it can be dirt, it can be rally, it can be it can be anything, and get out there and actually prove something rather than just be a muppet, because there's plenty of muppets out there.
Yeah.
Yep.
So how, as a team, do you think that you guys have done so far? I mean, you've been around for a while, but overall, what do you think?
The problem that we have is that well, not every lemons, but what happens is some of our drivers do the event with us, and then they go, hey, that was fun, we're going to do it for ourselves, and they go off and they start their own team. And that's happened about
it's more than once.
Yeah. So, but no, as far as Hooncorp, I'd like to think that every lemons event we've learnt something, whether it's been how to sort of manage the pits, or it's been sort of a pit stop procedure, or just something we learned. And even down to having spare parts readily available on hand in case we need them, because spare parts is sort of one of the most critical but easily overlooked parts of any endurance race. You get people that rock up and they'll blow a tire, or they'll do something stupid, that they'll break something really easy, and they don't have any spares. But at Hooncorp, every race car that we have a completely identical road-going spare parts car. That's why we were so surprised that you guys run such a variety of vehicles. Is we run, apart from the Holden, everything that we have is Nissan. So all the parts are interchangeable.
Nissan.
Yes.
Yeah.
Every part's interchangeable. We can take the brakes out of that one and the gearbox out of that one, and it all swaps over. The Commodore is an exception because that was our first, and it's become a bit of a legend. It's called the Cyclops because we always break at least one headlight. So, so I'd like to think that with every lemons we learn something for the next one, and I don't even think there's an end game there. We're just going to learn more and get better and more fluid, and it's one of those endless cycles.
So we like to do this thing. It's the good, the bad, and the ugly. So can you tell me maybe the good thing or the bad thing, and anything ugly that you can think about?
Well, the
ugly is when whatever happened just completely went off the rails. It was not funny at the time, but it's really funny now.
Well, I'll start with the good, and he can think about all the others. But the good was a couple of years ago when we ran the Commodore, the first one, and it finished, and then we ran the Commodore and the first Pulsar together, and I only had one goal, and I said, guys, all I want to do is that Nathan and I start and that Nathan and I finish, and at the end of the day I don't care really what happens in between, just as long as we finish. And so both of us were on the track on the start of the grid, and then the rest of the night and everything, day and night ensued. This is the non-stop. And then at 3 o'clock in the afternoon on the Sunday, we had a called to form up, and that we were sort of side by side for a couple of laps, and then they extended the race another 10 or 15 minutes. So we sort of lost the side by side form up, thinking we were, bang on the 3 o'clock, and it went to 3:15. But the end shot was that we both crossed the line in the car, and to me, I've got a photo on my phone. I've got a photo of that, and that's the most father-son satisfying moment of my life, that I was actually able to climb out of the car, sit beside him in his car, and say, mate, that was awesome. And we had a big hug, and someone captured it on photo. We didn't expect that, and that's probably the most special moment. And whether that can be beaten, who knows? But that was the good for me. And as the guy responsible for getting the cars across the checkered flag, I'll take that as a massive good.
And
That's a good one.
I just thought of the perfect bad and ugly.
Oh no.
So
Okay.
the bad was the first one that we did at Taupo. So the first Taupo Lemons was big because up till then, it was the second Taupo. But anyway,
right.
So we ran the Commodore, and we ran this Nissan Lucino, and we had our black Pulsar there just as a sort of
spares.
Spares, and because like I said, all the parts cross over. And what happened was the Lucino actually overheated under safety car. So at race pace, it was fine. It was getting air through it. What we hadn't realized was that the water pump had failed, and because the temperature gauge didn't work, we had no way of knowing. So at race pace, it was getting enough air through it. It was all good. As soon as the safety car came out, it slowed down, and it just wasn't getting the air. It cooked. So we had it at the garage there, and we were looking at what we could do, and there was only like 4 hours to go, so we weren't exactly going to have time to do an engine swap. So what we did was we actually got a strop, and we actually towed it across the line using the black Pulsar. So, and because the Pulsar went on track, it had to have a transponder, and it had to have so we started 2 cars and we finished 3 cars. So worked that one out.
We actually literally started the Pulsar because the organizer said, look, put it out there on the track, no problem, just for numbers to start. And then we know you've actually only brought it there as parts, but because it was a fully functioning race car, we didn't have the drivers for it, so we used it as spare parts. But and then right towards the end, about 15 minutes to go, and that we put the tow rope on, and we had one of the drivers already, and I jumped in the Lucino with the broken engine and pulled it out there, got to the exit of the track. They put the last lap board out, allowed us to go out onto the track and go to the infield safely. And then once the checkered flag came out, we came down the thing, crossed the line, and the Lucino finished, for argument's sake, 27th or something like that, and the spare parts car finished 28th because it went across the line too as the next finisher. So that was quite funny. But
yeah.
So what was the ugly?
The ugly was
bad.
September 2018.
Yeah.
The Holden Commodore. So for the September race, we only entered the Commodore because, we didn't have the drivers, and the drivers that we did have wanted to sort of save up for the 24, which is fair enough. And so we were running this Commodore, and I was doing the last stint before they stopped the race for the night. And I had my cousin Caleb in my ear, and I said to him that, hey, look, we're running pretty tight on fuel here. Like we had the numbers pretty dialed in. And he goes, that's all good. The race is set to finish at 5 o'clock. And I was like, sweet as. Okay, so I'm circulating, and I'm just trying to sort of fuel save a bit because it was getting a bit close for comfort. And then the race control decided to extend the race for another half hour. So, and the fuel, it got so low that I was literally losing speed going up the hill because all the fuel was like going away from where the intake was. And I actually said to Caleb, I said, look, if this race doesn't finish in like 5 minutes, we're not going to finish. And so to cut a long story short, we did finish, and I came into the pits, and we actually had a look. We actually pulled the fuel tank out because we had to do a bit of work on, I think it was the fuel filter and bits and pieces. Yeah. And we actually did the math, and I've just done the calculations here. We had 1/10 of a gallon left in the tank. It's an 80-litre cell. We had
plenty.
Gallon.
Yeah.
So,
you don't want to carry that extra weight,
That's right.
So that was the good, the bad, and the ugly for Hooncorp Lemons thus far.
There you go.
Awesome.
So we just like to do some fun questions to figure out personally who you guys are. So both of you guys can answer. They're pretty fast. Nathan and Mike, what was your very first car?
I had a 1965 Hooncorp. That's mine. What's yours?
We're looking that
First one I
up.
owned or first one I drove?
No, your first car.
My first car was a 1990 something Nissan Primera. 6-shift manual too.
Yep.
Something.
Yep.
Hooncorp. I'm looking this up. Hooncorp, huh? Doesn't say, unless I spell Hooncorp wrong. I'm not getting any car here. What's a Hooncorp?
Hillman.
Yeah, Hillman. Yep.
Oh,
Hillman.
sorry.
Oh, she was a Mark 1 in black and white.
Oh.
A Minx, a Super Minx.
Oh, that's the longer shape. Yep. This is a really small little car. Hillman Imp, IMP.
Oh, IMP. I'm on IMP. We got to look one of these up. We don't have those over here. Oh, wow.
No.
Okay.
Yeah.
It's like it's a
Tiny
little one.
little box, and the engine was in the back, and they're a strange little car, but.
What does it remind you of, Bill?
It kind of reminds me of a Mini.
Really?
Yeah,
A little
side.
different.
Yeah.
A little different. It's kind of like a Mini and a what's the name of that car they have over in England? I don't know. I'll show you later. Okay.
Yeah.
Sorry, I had to look that one up.
So each of you can answer this. What is the one thing that no one knows about you that would surprise them?
I don't have any tattoos.
Okay. We don't have any video, so we're not surprised right now.
No.
Oh,
Come on, Nathan.
I don't know. I'm just trying to think.
That no one knows about you.
That no one knows about me.
Or most people.
Even I don't know.
Or most, except for your dad.
Oh,
Jeez. All right.
It's got to be surprising. It doesn't have to be
He likes
more of a
ballet?
surprise.
No.
I
I don't know.
I am totally useless at shifting with my right hand. I've tried driving some of your left-hand drive vehicles, and I'm useless at using my right hand for the gears.
Okay, I didn't know
Okay.
that. Yeah. Okay.
All right.
So,
You got to let go of everything else and then go for it. So. Vicky.
Okay, how about automatic or stick?
Stick.
It's always.
Yeah.
We're trying to find somebody who says automatic.
Tiptronic is not manual, no matter how many times you try to justify it.
And it's always stick unless your name is Cyril.
So our son Liam has a friend, and his friend's talking trash about how good of a driver he is, and you know how he would dominate on our team and everything. And Liam's like, "Hey, you don't even know how to drive a stick." He's like, "Yes, I do." And Liam's like, "No, you don't." And he's like, "Look," and he takes him out to the car to get in the car. He gets in the car, he starts it up, puts it in drive, and then he starts pulling the paddles on the side of the thing. He's thinking that's driving a stick, and Liam's just shaking his head, going,
Yeah.
Oh, I
Not
feel
quite.
sorry.
Lazy man stick.
Yeah.
All right, here's one. Front wheel drive, rear wheel drive, or 4-wheel drive?
Myself personally, I actually love 4-wheel drive. Love it. Really love it. I
Right.
drove an Evo, had a great time around the track with a mate of mine. He had the identical car, and he told me I was only faster than him because my car was better than his. So we swapped cars, and I still kicked his backside. Anyway, that's me all drive. Come on, what about you?
Well, obviously, like 90% of my experience is front wheel drive, but
Right.
Yeah, so I'd probably say front wheel drive just because it's, and I'm actually,
Let's be honest.
I do quite like the wet in the front wheel drive.
Yeah.
When it rains,
Yeah,
that's
front wheel
fun.
drive.
Can I kick in here with a story? It's a true story.
Sure.
Last Lemons, 24 hour in May, we had I looked at the tyres on the car, and I looked, the left front tyre on the Pulsar was a bit down, and he was driving the Pulsar. So with about 2 hours to go, I thought, look, we've got another brand new tyre, let's chuck it on, let's just keep it going. Just the left front tyre, Hampton Downs always turns right, so it chewed out the left front tyre. So we put this tyre on, and the other guy did a good stint, and he came in, and Nathan jumped in to do the last hour, just the way it worked out. Well, just as Nathan went out onto the track, it starts raining, and it came down in buckets, and Nathan's on the car, and he's going, "Why is everybody slowing down?" And it was like, "Mate, that's raining." And his lap times are just about identical. This kid's really good on the wet, and it was just that innocence of not realising he's actually a pretty good pedaler, but going, "Why is everyone slowing down?" And we made up so many spots in that last hour. It was brilliant. Absolutely. Anyway, Sorry, that's just
awesome.
a funny little
That's
problem.
awesome.
That's an awesome story.
No problem. So everybody has one or two. What's the car that got away? The one that you're looking back going, oh, I shouldn't have done that.
I've had a few, but the one that I used to love was my Vauxhall Viva.
Okay.
And it was a 1968 Vauxhall Viva. It was like a station wagon, but it was just a two-door, and it had the hatch at the back. And I didn't realize then what I had. And I always loved it and didn't really need to get rid of it. But obviously you upgrade and blah, blah, blah. And I was young back in those days, 18, 19, and I just wish I had that now. It's just and you know, the thing about it, Bill, and team, is that anything on that car that went wrong, you could fix it. You know, not like today where a light comes on the dash and you spend $500 at the garage and all he's probably done is taken the battery off and reset it. But anything on this car, and I think when I turned the key on, the red light came up saying charge from the generator, not an alternator, and the red light came up saying oil, and that's all I had. That's the only indication I had. You know, I love that sort of stuff.
Yeah.
So that's me anyway. What about you?
Yeah. Well, obviously I'm still pretty young in my vehicle ownership and my history with that, but I will probably tell the story. It's sort of a Hooncorp one because it was Dad as well as it was me. But we had a VK Commodore, which it's even older than the VN Commodore. It's a bit more legendary because of the man over in Australia, Peter Brock, legendary driver, and the VK is a gorgeous model. And anyway, so we had this body there, and it was straight, it was rust free. It was probably one of the best examples of a body shell.
Anyway,
given the condition. We had the motor lined up, and it was a 5-liter V8 with nice bits and pieces all ready to go into it. And then at one of the Lemons, there was a team that runs a similar car, and their engine blew up. So they were going up and down the pits asking everybody if they had a Holden V8 that they'd be willing to sell, and begrudgingly we sold it to them. So that was it wasn't the one that got away. It was the one that we let our act of goodwill sort of do the taking, but it was like, damn it. Yeah. It was a good motor.
But it's good to help them out too, because they went out onto the track the next day with that engine in the car, and their lap time was 4 seconds a lap faster than with their old engine, because I knew that had a good engine in it. So and to this day, that guy's always shown appreciation and been happy. So it's good. It was good.
Yeah, that's awesome.
Yeah.
We still cry when we hear it though.
Yeah.
What would be your dream car for the road, and what would be your dream car for a race?
You start on that one, youngster. I'm old.
I need time to think too.
I would like, on the road, I would like an Evo 4 with an Evo 9 motor in it, because you can get them as a crate engine and about 4,000 New Zealand dollars. So it's about 12 American dollars. And the Evo 4, I like the shape of it. And even though I'm a Nissan man, I do love the shape of that Evo. On the track, I would probably like a GT3 car, and I don't know why, but that new Mercedes is just a gorgeous looking car, and that would make me a happy person driving that around the track. And on the road, I think the Evo would be a nice 50k around town, and 60 mile an hour on the open freeway. I'm trying to use American words. We call it a motorway. You guys call it a freeway. And yeah, I think I'd be pretty happy with that Evo road car and a GT3 track car without being silly.
Yeah.
Your turn, quickly.
I think
I've used up all the time.
We've got plenty of recording tape.
We got plenty of time.
I think my dream road car would be an R33 GTR Skyline.
Ooh, yes.
Because it's the less loved by the community, so they'd be cheaper. And for the track, I'd probably go a GT3 spec, just because we're such Nissan loyalists, it would be a crime otherwise. So
I just said that I want a Mitsubishi and a Mercedes. I'm not Nissan.
I'm the loyalist here.
You are.
Yeah.
You're making me look like a real clown here. Harsh.
Crying out loud. Yeah. So I think those would be my choices.
Yeah.
Excellent.
Okay, so what car would you have loved to switch into that you're currently racing against? And in the bigger realm, you can include the US also.
Well, there is actually
SpeedyCop.
SpeedyCop.
one of the teams that we raced with quite frequently, they're called the Limorons.
Oh yeah.
And their car is probably one of the most uniquely engineered, aside from SpeedyCop, obviously he blows everything out of the water, but it's a Suzuki Ignus. But what they've done to the Suzuki Ignus is they've completely gutted it internally, and they've made it center seater, like a McLaren F1. The seat is
wow.
center, and it's got the Dixie horn air horns and everything, and that little thing just goes so fast. It hugs the road. It blows past you like you're sitting still, and what I wouldn't give to just have a play in that thing.
Yeah, that's a good one.
What about you?
Oh, me. I don't know. I was trying to think, but I'm looking at the pictures that you guys have got there of your 1974 Capri, and that's a good looking car. I wouldn't mind having a drive of that. To be fair, I'll have a drive of your Capri. You come and have a drive of the Commodore. I think that's a great feeling.
I think we have a better chance of getting in your Commodore than you have of getting in the Capri.
We shouldn't give up on the Capri. We're not giving up on the Capri.
Can't give up on the Capri. You can get a 5-litre Muttstang motor into those things quite easily. The V8, that'll be fine.
Yeah. Mm-hmm. Oh yeah. Well, we're actually. What do we have going into it?
Oh, you're doing Chevy, aren't you? Sorry, Chevy.
3.8. Yeah.
Yep. Sorry.
All right. So I don't know if you guys have lotteries over there, but we have lotteries over here. So we always introduce a lot of our questions as, when we win the lottery, which, it's obviously coming, especially since none of us play. But when we win the lottery, we like to take care of our guests. And one of the things we like to know is we like to have our shopping list ready. And we were wondering, you're going to build a race car, but what would the car be that you would start building your race car from?
Oh, wow. Whew. For lemons.
Whatever. You could do anything you want. You could have a lemons one and a non-lemons one. I mean, you came on like 5,000 miles away, so you can have anything you want, sir.
I think TCR would be a pretty interesting class to build a car for the simple fact that it's picking up pace like you wouldn't believe. Worldwide.
TCR's massive, yeah.
So probably look at building a TCR. I wonder if there's a Nissan that's eligible.
That's
what I'm saying. Is there a Nissan?
You're allowed to get something that's not a Nissan. I just thought I'd bring that to your attention.
Yeah, I've liked the look. To be fair, there is like an Alfa Romeo, some sort of TCR that looks pretty attractive.
I think I would go with the new Dodge Hellcat, because I absolutely love the shape of that new Dodge Hellcat. And I think that would be was it 900 horsepower motor you can get out of those things now? I think it even might be more, to be honest. I think there was some ridiculous, but I mean, how reliable, and again, the mechanic comes out, how reliable would that be? But if you could make that, and I think, I know you haven't asked track, but I would love to run something like that. All the best of everything, nice car, blah, 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 at Laguna Seca. I would love to drive Laguna Seca, because we play it over here on the sim racing, but I think on the real world, that would be an awesome track.
That would be terrifying.
Oh yeah.
In a Hellcat, that would be horrible.
It had like really good suspension, really good sticky tires, the whole 9 yards. Not like our Commodores that's got like badly treaded tires and not much horsepower and all of that sort of stuff.
I think you're talking about the sim Hellcat, not the real Hellcat. But that's just me. Okay. All right. So dream track would be Laguna Seca. Is that the same for both?
For me, yeah, I'd go.
Yeah, you'd go Laguna Seca. My dream track would probably be, well, Bathurst is an obvious choice for someone in this corner of the world.
Sure.
As far as worldwide, though, I quite like Mount Fuji in Japan.
Okay. Yeah.
That's quite a Suzuka circuit is similar for similar reasons. I like the flow, and it's one of those sorts of, you don't see many figure 8 tracks anymore these days. They're all flat and boring.
Right.
Yeah. But obviously Laguna Seca would be a thrill ride. So
It's terrifying.
I sort of just gave you 3 there. But, one of the 3. I'm not really not too fussed.
Well, why make it an or question? Make it an and.
Yeah.
That sounds awesome. We did get Laguna Seca crossed off the list for us. At least Vicky and I did this January. So we're probably going to have to go back, because I think everybody wants to go. So.
Yeah, that's true.
Yeah.
What were you driving there?
We were driving. Well, Vicky was attempting to drive, and we were driving a Honda Civic It was Vicky's first time racing with a front-wheel drive car,
Right.
and the owner of the car likes his cars very loose when they're front-wheel drive.
And juicy.
And yes, and it was leaking a tad bit of oil to the amount of about 6 to 7 liters over the 2 days that we were racing. So
Wow.
it was a little slippery, and Vicky had some issues.
Right.
That's okay, Vic. I still want to be as good as you.
Jen.
You still need to aim much higher, Jen.
You really do.
So, how do we keep in contact with you guys? Is there something we can follow? Do you have a website or Instagram or anything along those lines?
So Hooncorp's most active on Facebook. Hooncorp on Facebook's the number one, sort of, that's where everything gets posted first and everything else sort of trickles down. We're on Instagram. GT Planet as well. We're sort of heavily involved with the folks over at GT Planet, which is a great sim racing and regular racing community that's picking up momentum. Yeah, those are the 3 main avenues.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I didn't even know we're on Instagram, so that's quite good. Awesome.
That's how we tracked you down.
Yeah.
You got to post your crazy.
Oh, okay. I know how to turn my phone on, and Nathan's in charge of all the other technology, so that's good. We're on Instagram. Okay.
There you go.
Cool.
Good partnership.
That's how it is.
That's how it works.
I've seen 2 different drivers be announced. I think that this is being milked, by the way, on this driver announcement list that you guys are coming up with. But nonetheless, so far you've had Matt Smith and Noel Williams be your 2 drivers coming for the 2020 Lemons races.
Yeah. Well, that's if it happens now. It's a little bit worrying, but we've got some pretty gosh.
Yeah, there's certainly a bit of worry there. Everyone's keeping a close eye on the headlines right about now, I can assure you.
Mm.
Now,
Absolutely.
have you guys had any races canceled over there at all?
Well,
just in the weekend the Australians did.
Other than the Formula One, which in turn had the V8 supercars and all the other support classes there, but
that was in Australia.
That was Australia,
yeah.
But as far as local, I don't think anything's been cancelled just yet.
No, I do a lot of motor racing commentating, and I've actually got a two race meet weekend coming up, and I'm not actually sure how that's all going to go yet to hear from the organisers, but yeah, it's in limbo. So hopefully plenty more racing to come, but I'm quietly pessimistic.
Yeah, they I'm pretty sure we mentioned it that they cleared the first month on the US side.
Yeah.
So there's no Lemons racing for the first 3 races, right, Bill?
The next 3 races.
The next 3 races are going to be done. So we'll have to see how April goes for us on the East Coast.
Yes, the 4th race in a row would be the one that we're trying to get to, but
Right.
Yeah.
I think there's some other things that might come slightly more important than our Lemons racing. I don't know what they will be, but there's got to be something.
No, sure.
Yeah.
Hope so, wouldn't you?
Yeah. So anyway, well, thank you both for coming on, and hopefully you had a great time. We enjoyed having you on, and wish you well with your racing endeavors and general endeavors. And once again, if you guys want to follow the Hooncorp crowd, they're on Facebook, and they're starting to be on Instagram. So thank you guys.
It is.
Thanks for having us,
Thank you
guys. Appreciate
so
it.
much.
Thank you so much.
It's been great fun, guys.
Good luck.
Oh,
Yes.
thank you.
Good luck on your racing, and we will certainly be following you.
Yeah, we'll be keeping an eye on you guys.
Yep, watching this Garage Heroes in training. I want to see how that little Ford Capri with the Chevy engine goes.
So do we.
So do we.
I'm really quite attracted to your little car.
Hold
I'll
on,
be
I
honest
just
with you.
gotta wipe the drool off his chin. Hold on.
I love it. I think it's a gorgeous looking car. And I'll be honest with you, they're actually worth quite a pretty penny, both over here in New Zealand and in England. So I think you might have fallen on your feet there, and that's you probably don't realise how much that thing's worth. It's a cool car.
Well, if you guys ever want to come for a ride and it's working, it's yours.
No, that's great. Hey, thank you very much for having us, guys. It's been a pleasure.
All right.
Really.
Yeah, appreciate
All
it.
right.
Thank
Take care, guys.
Have a great. I'm usually saying have a great night, but I guess for you to have a great day.
Yeah, it's just 11 o'clock in the morning, so we've got plenty of day to go. So thank you.
All right. Bye-bye.
Thanks, guys.
Cheers, guys.
Cheers.
Ta-da.
dominating with Dawson.
So Ben, let's talk about seating position and hand positions while trying to race competitively. What are you thinking about those?
Gotcha. As far as seating position, in my ideal seating position is one where I'm as low as I can get in the car, but still see as much as I need to see out over the dashboard and the hood. But in general, you want to have the weight as low as you can in the car, but also you want to be comfortable. You don't want to be stretching your legs so much that you could barely reach the pedals. I've raced with a co-driver who told me after we won a race that he was so short that he had to race with his lap belts loose just to be able to reach the clutch in my car. It was a Miata, so that's not ideal. That's not ideal either.
No. So how much bend do you want in your knee? Like a bicycle type bend? You don't want it fully straight, but you want some?
Yeah, you don't want your legs stretched out. I'm comfortable with less bend and then if you're sitting on the seat, a bench seat of a truck, and your knees are hanging straight down, I don't want that.
Right.
I want something pretty much just like you would have in a nice sporty coupe or something like that, but just a little bit lower to the ground.
Yeah, you don't want to have to do tippy toes on the clutch, right?
That's exactly right. So you want to have plenty of room, but I've also had to, I've raced in a bunch of different people's cars, and it's not ideal, and a lot of times you're not going to know what the seating situation is until you show up at the track and maybe meet the person for the first time or see the car for the first time. So I've definitely raced with my knees in my chest, different awkward seating positions and awkward mirror positions, things like that. Sometimes you just got to make the best of it. And just for anybody, this is a PSA for anybody walking up to a race car. The first thing you want to do is look around the cage and make sure it's a cage that you think is safe and is going to easily pass tech and be safe for you to race in. So that's just something you always do. It's easy to kind of forget and not take the time to inspect the cage in a car. But as you're getting in there and looking at the seating position, it's a great time to look around at the spreader plates and everything on the cage and make sure you don't see any tacky welding or anything like that. So that's a PSA for checking out your seating position. But I can make almost anything work in a seating position, even in an endurance race for a couple of hours, because at least for me, I get out there and I'm so excited when I'm driving. The last thing I'm thinking about is being cold or thirsty, or maybe not being in the most comfortable seating position. I can work all that out after my stint, but just about anything will work. But and ideally, as far as position between your seat and the wheel, you don't want your arms stretched out, because the more bend you have in your arms, the more fine motor control you have. If the wheel is all the way out at the full extension of your arms, you're not going to be able to make corrections as readily as you would if you had the wheel closer to you.
So is that where, if your shoulders are back, you want to have your wrist able to touch the wheel, the top of the wheel? Is that about right?
That seems about right. You just don't want to be at full extension, or you're not going to be able to twist the wheel as readily and quickly as you need to make corrections or adjustments to where you're headed. So that's my understanding. You don't want to be like the NASCAR guys where the wheel is resting on their sternum. So somewhere between that and full extension, that's comfortable for you. So
right.
And these are all things you have to think of as you're putting your race car together. It might involve moving your seat or getting a different mount, but this is stuff you kind of have to nail down or fix. If you get a car from somebody else and decide to start running it, you're definitely going to have to pay attention to that, and it's worth the time and effort to get that right out of the gate.
Okay. And then mirrors. If you're running stock mirrors in a car, what would you like to do there? I'm
a fan of your driver's side mirror, really seeing what's on that side of the car. The center, the center mirror. If you got a wink or a convex mirror, that's gonna show you pretty much the whole picture anyway. But if it's stock mirrors, you just got the mirror that came in the car. I like to kind of point that straight at the back, and then the passenger side mirror, I really just want to be catching what's happening on the right side of the car. So I kind of do it like a triptych, like 3 panes. I usually use the center main rear view. I point it a little bit biased toward the left a little bit, because usually that's kind of where most stuff where I'm paying attention to most. But I'm also, so I want to be able to see full field of view out behind the car, and I kind of split up the responsibility between the 3 mirrors.
So full field of view is a code for your side mirrors are not looking at your own car.
Right.
Yeah. Okay. All right. Very well. Thank you, sir.
Yes, sir.
So thank you for listening to our podcast. Please subscribe to our podcast on your favorite podcast source. If you have any questions or topics you'd like us to cover, please let us know. GarageHeroesInTraining@gmail.com, or you can always follow along on our podcast or at GarageHeroesInTraining.com. And we actually have managed to get our YouTube channel up and running again, so you can also follow along there. So thank you, everybody.
Bye.
Bye.
I think we lost Jen.
Can you hear me?
Yeah, we can now.
Can you hear me?
Now
Okay.
we
can now.
Sorry. Jim was going in outside, so I had to mute it because the door was slamming.
Oh, jeez.
We couldn't tell because your video froze a long time ago.
I know. Sorry.
That's okay. No big deal. All right. How's the trip back?
Ugh.
Ugh.
Sorry.
Where
It's
you guys
not
at?
good because their battery isn't doing well.
No, I just found a problem.
Oh.
Might have to leave.
Oh, we might have to leave now, so it's not good.
Is it
Anyway.
the truck or the
I
The
don't know,
RV.
what is-
No, we're not going to have a refrigerator unless we leave the truck on.
Oh. We're not going to have a refrigerator unless we leave the truck running all night, and that's not good because we have stuff in the fridge and the freezer.
Oh, that's a bummer. Is it a battery thing?
I don't know. But the dog's upset now.
Sure.
Oh.
All right, I gotta go.
All right, I'll talk to you later, Jen. See you when you get back.
Bye.
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 Mm.
Not
Okay.
that I need toilet paper, but that's just crazy.
No, I needed toilet paper. I actually
you?
needed toilet paper. And I ended up having to buy
saw one
boxes
meme.
of Kleenexes for
I
starters, and then I
remember.
found some. Like, whoa.
They say if you need 144 rolls of toilet paper, then you should have been seeing the doctor long before this broke out.
That's right.
You've got quite a variety of cars. You don't stick with one particular type. You go with all sorts of things, Bill. That would be a bit of a challenge for you.
We
Not a
never said we were
hand-me-down.
smart.
No,
Ever.
No.
I love your old Ford Capri or Granada. It's actually quite a very old
Yeah.
1970s car, isn't it?
74, yeah.
Yeah.
And now it's getting a Camaro
We have
inside
a
it.
Capri. I have to say
Oh,
that
okay.
every time.
I know.
Welcome to the Garage Heroes in Training podcast. I'm going to be your host for this episode, and my name is Bill. And right when I say this, everybody went away. Vicky's sharing her screen now. All right, Vic, you're sharing your screen. Vic,
I'm working on it.
don't hit the
Okay.
button. Vicky,
I'm trying to fix it. Hold on.
lower right-hand side, share a screen. Say stop, please.
Okay. Working on it.
Techno Amish.
Got it. Yeah, I'm techno Amish.
There we
Okay.
go.
Yeah. All right.
Okay.
Sorry about that.
All right.
That's right.
You ready to do this again, or you gonna
Yep.
kick my dog
Ready
or
to go.
something? Okay, very
Go.
well.
Sweet.
All right,